Hello everyone, welcome to the channel. Hope you're all having a fantastic day. So today we're installing a radio system in the KRX. So before we get started, let's talk real quick about this. There is a plethora of information and different options out there that you can do for radio and intercom systems, depending on what you need for your intended use and purpose. So let's look at what I went with, because we could be here all day talking about different brands, different types, wired, Bluetooth. Like I said, we could be here all day. So here behind me is what I have. Now, when you decide what you're going to do, there are multiple options, like I said. One of them is you can go to companies like Rugged Radio, and that's the brand I have here, and you can buy a master install kit or whatever they call them, and it's vehicle specific. So it'll give you the mounting hardware, tell you how to run the wires, and everything you need, and then you just need to pick your type of headset, whether it's a behind the head headset like this one, or one that mounts in a helmet, or just buying a new helmet from them. Now, I always do stuff on the cheap, as I call it, or thrifty, or just the most cost-effective way. So as you see all this stuff here, while most all of it is Rugged Radio brand, because that's what I chose to go with, I didn't buy it all from Rugged. I've been collecting parts for the past 2.5, 3 months. I'd find stuff on sale, whether it be scratch and dent, whatever, to install in the KRX, because, well, I try to do it on cheap. So let's go through what I have, and we'll jump right into this install, because my install will be similar to others you may have seen, but not exactly. Let's talk about the equipment that I'm going to install today in the KRX. So first of all, the radio. It's a GMR25. It's just their small radio. It's right above a handheld, because I really just want to be able to listen to the group that I'm riding with and hear what's going on up front. For the intercom system, this is actually not the intercom that I wanted, but it was the right price. So this is the 686 intercom. The one I was looking at was discontinued. It was Bluetooth. There's other Bluetooth options out there, but they were much more expensive, almost twice as much as I paid for this one. So this one does have my music, which I can plug in from the iPad, so that's nice. That's one of the reasons I don't put loud stereos in my vehicles, because no one else needs to hear my music, and that's a nice feature there. The other thing is, by buying all Rugged Radio brands, you see these two wires right there? They interconnect, which is really nice. Now on the back of the radio, only other thing you have is your antenna and then the power cables. On the back of the intercom is completely different. So because the intercom connects to the radio, I have my headsets right there, those top ones, and the bottom ones are push-to-talk buttons. What does that mean? Well, it means I don't have to use the handheld mic. I actually got a couple of these buttons, and they're push-to-talk. You see them all the time. Now this one is not coiled, and this one is. It has a coil here. This is the one I'll put on the steering wheel, and this one I will put on the grab handle for the passenger. The only time you have to use the push-to-talk is when you're talking to other cars. The intercom system will be live between the two headsets, so it's not a big deal. I have a nice little mount here that's made specifically for my radio and intercom, so it's a nice clean look. The antenna cable. Now I did buy this, and I'll show you what we're going to do with this later. This is just a mount that goes in the center console of your KRX. I have a mounts for where the headsets are going to go, some dummy plugs. Here's the two cables that will go from the back of the intercom system where the headsets will plug into, and then they'll slide into this mount. I'll show you that later. I have one cable to go from the headsets to the mounts that we're going to put in the center console. So I had to buy this because on one of my helmets, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put these kits in there. Now these kits are relatively inexpensive. They're much cheaper than buying a helmet. And it's basically your microphone and your two earpieces. And then they make a very easy, quick attachment right there to hook to your helmets. Then I also have a nice headset. Now I got the behind the ears headsets. Like I said, I picked this one up on clearance for half the retail price. So that's pretty much everything you need to install the radio and intercom system in your KRX. A couple things you got to follow is, one, you need to look at the FCC for your licensing on which license you want to get if you're going to use the radio to actually transmit. Number two, on your antenna, there is a way to test it and tune it. So if you don't have the equipment, maybe call a shop. I have a buddy who's helped me do some wiring before who has all the equipment and the meters, so he can help me tune the antenna. And then finally, on the radio and intercom system, I've been told by Rugged Radio and other people that I need to run the power directly to the battery. Don't go through the VOS switch, don't go through anything else, have it go directly to the battery. So it's good and bad. The good part on that is you're not going to have any interference. The bad part is if I forget to turn the radio off, and it's just a dial on the front, right here, turn it on and off, just a button I guess, it could kill the battery in the KRX. Now they do make some kits where you can run this through a switch, but they say don't run it through any other electronics, like I said. So you have Phoenix switch, Pro switch, the VOS switch, whatever it is, they say don't run it through there. It could get interference. So let's go ahead, let me show you how we're going to install this. So here's the center console, just to save some time. I've showed in my videos in the past how to remove it, but if you don't know how, there's 2 pop rivets here, 2 underneath this lid, down in here, 2 in the center cubby, and then down here at the bottom, there is 2 Phillips head screws. So this is what I bought when I first got the KRX. It's just a piece of plastic, and it's cut out specifically for the center console. They're anywhere from 15 to 30 bucks online, depending on who you get it from. So the way this is supposed to work is it's supposed to set in here, kind of like this. The camera's gonna show you. And then you can cut out and put your radio and whatnot in here. I'm gonna use this, but I have to modify it. There's a couple reasons. One, with this iPad holder here and my springs, it's not gonna fit. So I could just cut the top off and let it sit right down in here, not a big deal. But the other problem is my radio. So if you look, the radio's got buttons. So the radio has to sit back just a little bit farther. So I'm gonna have to also trim the sides, and I'll make a template with a piece of cardboard on the inside to figure out where I want it. I'll put some L brackets on the side, and we'll hold it in that way. Secondly, so cutting this out to be a perfect opening for the radio and for the intercom, it's kind of difficult. You can go to the Rugged Radio website, and these are not very expensive, and they are cut to fit. You just slide everything on in. And you just take it just like that, slide it in so it lines up. Now if you look at the sides, it's got the factory mounting bolts. If you notice this top one, you gotta have, it can only go about right there, as far back as it can. So if you look, it's gonna stick out just a little bit. So I need to take that into account by the time I put this mounting plate there to have it sitting so far back. Now for those of you who are already paying attention, this cubby is not deep enough. So I need to cut the back off. What I'm gonna try to do is put everything as low as possible so I can keep these top 2 mounting tabs. If you buy the OEM Kawasaki Rugged Radio kits, it actually comes with something that brings the radio out. So I'm not too worried about it. You can buy these cheap online used, and I don't ever plan on removing the radio anyways. So we're gonna cut this back part out to get started, and I'm gonna make a cardboard template to fit in here so I know exactly how far back I have to set the radio. And again, the reason I have to set the radio back is, well, it's because of the buttons. So I'm gonna go ahead and get the cardboard template made, and I'll be right back with you. So it's been just a few minutes, probably 10 minutes of working on it. I took a multi-tool and I did cut the back of this out. Now I did go up here, but I left these mounts. I wanted something else. You know, it's just the plastic rivets, but it also gives this box more rigidity. For the inside, I'll show you what this looks like on the inside, but this is all I did, is took a piece of cardboard, now I overcut here, put some painter's tape, and now I can transfer everything onto this. And I'll go a little big on this so I can fine tune it. It is not gonna be perfect on the inside. I am not an artist, I'm not a professional. You're not gonna see it anyways because this covers it up, but I do want to look the best I can. So once I get this in there, The next step will be to put the mounts. Now that I have this cut out to satisfaction, no, it's not perfect, I need to take this mount and put it on here. Now, the bottom of this slopes up, so I need to have it slightly up from the bottom. But if you look, I'm gonna have to trim some of this metal. I want as much of this plastic is here as possible, and I want these mounting holes. So I'm actually not going to trim this whole piece out. I'm gonna draw around the radio and the intercom, so I keep as much of this there, because this is what I'm going to bolt in to the center console, and then if I need to remove the radios, I will remove this piece. So I'll go ahead, I'll get this mounted up, then I will trim these side pieces. I've gone ahead and been playing with this for a little while. Let me show you kind of what I've got. So that's what it's gonna look like in there. You see how far back it's setting. Now the nice thing is, I can close the lid, I can look in there, and nothing is hitting. So now what I need to do is pull this back out. I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna mount this plate here to the sides. In order to do that, I need to look in here and I need to do some L brackets. The other thing I notice is because of the angle that this is at, I'm probably gonna have to trim some of this bottom piece. Not a big deal. I wasn't too worried about that in the beginning, but there's no way that the intercom is gonna slide the same angle. So I'll get this mounted up, finished up, and then we'll start the wiring in the vehicle. I have the radio and the intercom installed in here. I'm happy with it. Is it perfect? Absolutely not, but I'm pretty happy with it. And I have it mounted to the back. So next thing we have to do is run all these wires. Now, there's a couple on here that are super simple. One is like plugging in the intercom to the radio. You have your two power wires. You have an antenna wire. Now, you don't want to coil your antenna. I bought a piece, I think this one is 17 feet, so I may have to trim it, but I have the tools to trim this end here and put a new connector on. I also have these right here, which go to your headsets. They'll plug in the back here, and then the headset will plug in right here. To mount these, I'm going to use this bracket as I showed you in the beginning. So what you do is you end up running your wires through. I'll cut a hole in the center console by the rear cup holders. And once I get it nice and mounted, it comes with the hardware. You just push on down, and then there's some set screws so it doesn't go anywhere. And then finally, before I can mount the dash, I need to run my push to talk buttons. Now the push to talk button, you can get these in black or red. I chose black, and that's all it is right there. That's just keying your mic. This one, like I said with the coil, will go on the steering wheel, so as I turn the steering wheel. You don't want it wrapped really tightly, because by doing that, it could bind this up and you'll avoid the warranty. But again, I'm not going very far, and that will be plugged in here. So I've gone ahead, I've stripped the interior out of the KRX just to save some time. The first thing we're going to do is we are going to install this piece right here. Now I want to install it in the center console. There's really only two places to install it. You can install it here. My concern with installing it there is you have your parking brake lever there, or I can install it here. So this is where I'm going to install mine, which would mean when I'm wearing my headset, it'll go down and it will be right here is the cord. So first thing I'll do is I'll draw this out. I'll drill 2 holes to match these edges. You have a little bit of a flange if I want to stay as tight as I can, and then just cut the straight lines. Now I got these cut, it's got to cut this out here. So the next thing I'm going to do to get this installed is I went in and I took my set screws, put them in there, and I have to drill 4 holes. I'm using a 7/64 drill bit. I'm gonna make sure these 2 set screws are towards the rear so I can access them easy, and I will just drill the holes. Now that I have the mount in and bolted, I'm gonna go ahead, I'm gonna put these in. Now, when I start running the wires after this, I'm gonna run from the rear to the front, and I'll show you why. So we'll get these in, nice and easy. Just wanna sit them flush, and then set the set screws on these. And then so I went ahead, I got the covers on, just to keep any debris out of the outlets. Now I'm going to start from the back of the vehicle and work my way front. The reason being is this antenna wire. I want to cut the other end off and terminate it as short as possible, but leaving enough room to be able to get the dash out. Now there's a couple ways to mount this. You can buy a mount from like RB3, that's a 360 antenna mount, or any other manufacturers out there. Like this one that came with my antenna mounts, or do what I'm going to do, and I'm going to drill out one of the flag mounts in the back. Now, if you're not familiar, the KRX has 2 flag mounts, and well, I don't need a flag very often, and when I do, I only need to run 1 flag. I don't run lighted whips or any of that, so I'm not concerned. Now, if you look at this, it has a flat spot on the top and on the bottom, and this is a 3/4 inch hole, and those are right at 3/4 inches. So I'll drill out that mount back there from a 1/2 inch to 3/4 inch, fish it through, and this will be run in the same manner that I ran the XTC turn signal kit. I'll go right down across the frame rail, through the dash. I will come up through the center console, and I will tape all these wires together, and we'll make sure they're zip tied up out of the way, and we'll get to the back of the radio. So let's get that done, and then we'll work on the push to talk buttons. So if you're in the KRX, it's pretty much plug and play. The hardest part of this whole install, honestly, was installing the radio and intercom in the center console to where I was happy with it, and then removing the interior. So running the antenna, let me show you what that looks like. So here's the antenna. I drilled a 3/4 inch hole with my stepper bit in the factory mounts. So then you come back, vacuum up all the shavings, ran the wire down. I'll come back, I left the zip ties on here. It's a little easier to see, ran it just like the XTC turn signal kit. And then I pop through here. So here's my wire for the antenna. So I'm gonna run this separate up to the dash up here. From there, I'm gonna go ahead, I'm gonna put in my center console. So you can see I've got my dummy plug still in there. And I went ahead and about every 12 inches, I put some electrical tape. I'm gonna run these wires up to the dash. Now, what do I mean by plug and play? Because I bought a system and pieced it together myself from the same manufacturer, all the plugs work. I don't have any adapters. So right here are the 2 plugs I'll plug in to the headset piece on the back of the intercom. And then I'll run the 2 push to talk buttons from here in my steering wheel right to the back of the dash, run 2 power wires, and then reassemble the interior of the KRX. And again, the KRX is probably the hardest part to take apart other than mounting it in the dash. So let's get these wires ran. I'll just kind of speed everything up. This shouldn't take too long. So I have the antenna and the headphone jacks here run all the way up. There's still no pop rivets or anything in there. The next hardest wires to run is going to be the power wires. Now, the radio power wire right here, it has to go directly to the battery. You can do it switched, but I've always been told run it to the battery, you'll less likely to get interference and you get a good ground. So while I have everything off, I'm gonna go ahead and run these. This is the wire to the intercom system. I'm not too worried about that. And I will run that directly to the battery also, but the key is the radio. As you can see, it's a much thicker gauge wire than this little intercom. So I've pretty much got the interior back together, all the power wires ran, and it's looking kind of like it's a mess here, but it's really not that bad. It's just everything's gonna plug into the back of the dash. That's one reason I like the Vox switch, because it's just this one cable. But I have lots of extra cables here for the radio, the intercom. So the last 2 things we have to install is the push to talk buttons. Now, as I said in the beginning, pretty easy, they're plug and play, but they are different. So this one here has no coil. And yeah, most people are right-handed. I'm gonna go ahead, I'm gonna put this one right here, and it comes with just some zip ties that you're gonna run through. So I'm gonna go right down here. Now, one thing you do need to be careful of is not to over tighten these, so I will put something here. But this connector here looks very similar to this connector here. I know the camera's not going to show it too much, so just pay attention. This push to talk button is for the passenger. I put blue tape on the driver's side for the headset. I'll do the same thing for the push to talk. So now for here, a lot of people will zip tie. I'm not going to zip tie. I'm going to go ahead and just put some black tape, hold it on there nice and snug. And that way, if I ever have to move it, tape comes off easy. And there's my push to talk. Now for the driver's side, again, right-handed. So I'm gonna go onto the steering wheel And normally when I drive, you get your thumbs up here. So I'm gonna put it right here. And I'll be able to adjust this a little bit. Probably want the wire down. Yeah, that's gonna be better. Now there's different mounts you can get where you put them inside and whatnot. I'm not too worried about that. Now this one's got the coil. So the coil, you can wrap around the steering wheel the steering column a couple of times, and then you're gonna route it right here to the center. So I'm gonna get that done. And then really it's just putting the center console back together. This is a pretty easy install. The hardest part of this whole install, I'll install it in the center console. Now if you buy the Kawasaki kit, it's fairly easy. I actually looked at one yesterday. It's a nice simple process. You drill a couple holes and you're done. It's plug and play if you buy all the same brand. No adapter wires, no nothing. Running the antenna to the back was my option. You could very easily run the antenna up and have it, on your roll bar up here, or run it back and put it up here. The antenna is kind of a personal preference. I just wanted to use a factory connector. So let me get this run, and then we will put the center console back in, and we will see if this thing works. All right, let's check this out. We'll turn the ignition on. Lift this up. All right, so the intercom works. Uh-oh. Let's hold it down. Oh. And we have radio. So I guess the next step is let's plug in some music and see if that works. Well, I plugged in the iPad for my iPad mounts, and the music works just fine. So you can get your volume. So that's kind of nice. So now I got my Gaia Maps. I can have my radio going. You got your push to talk over here. Nice little push to talk right there. As you can see, it'll hit transmit and it mutes the music. So the last thing I gotta do is take this in and get it tunes. And what that means is take it to my buddy's house, and he's got a meter, and he will adjust the antenna so that the ground plane is correct. And I have no idea what that is. Well, there you have it. There's the install. It's pretty easy. It is plug and play. Mine took quite a bit longer because I wanted it behind the iPad mounts, but everything worked, fired up the first time, which is pretty cool. It's plug and play. Don't let an install like this scare you. And if you don't have the iPad mount, it will go a lot quicker. There's other mounts out there. The hardest part really is taking apart the interior to run your wires. As I said earlier, if you run your antenna to where you're not going all the way to the back of the vehicle, get a shorter wire. It's not a big deal. So I hope you liked the video. I hope you learned something. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe. Until next time.